well said.
Thank you, sir.
And Jordan, I've known you a long time. I don't know where he went. But sorry. I've known you a long time, and I respect you deeply, and I love you dearly, but we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. I, too, want to address the situation that occurred on Friday. I apologize. I'm going to read a statement, too. I don't like to do that, but there's way too much stuff to address in order to not address it in an organized and coherent fashion. I also want to point out, too, I've tried to remain objective about the events that I witnessed on Friday, and I'm not trying to, I've tried not to take hearsay into account. I've tried to form my own opinions, and what you're going to hear from me is my own opinion based on what I saw in the conversations that I had, not based on any kind of secondhand information. So for those of you that may not know me, my name is Bill Wise. My wife Becky and I are the proud parents of 3 children, Chloe, Ethan, and Elizabeth. I'm proud to say that my kids are 6th generation Richland County residents, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to raise them here in a beautiful and safe part of the world that has affordable housing, exceptional health care, and truly some of the finest people you'll ever meet anywhere in the world. And despite their parents' shortcomings, they're nominally well-adjusted kids and generally happy. And tonight I'm here on their behalf. So I got word late Friday morning that the students were conducting a sit-in support of the teachers union here in the Commons at the high school, and they were disrupting the normal daily schedule. So concern for my oldest daughter, who had also called her mom at home and expressed that she didn't know what to do. I left work in Viola and arrived here at the high school shortly before noon, about 11:45. Several other parents had also gathered here to ensure their own children's well-being, but nobody seemed to be able to offer a comprehensive summary of what was actually going on. There was clearly no protesting going on other than some pro-union and pro-teacher signage on the walls. There were no inspirational speeches and no chanting of clever slogans and no calls to action. Mostly, it just looked like a bunch of kids sitting around skipping class. After talking with parents and administrators and teachers and students, it became clear that there really was no consensus as to what was going on, how it had happened, or when it was supposed to end. Attendance wasn't being taken in the morning classes. Students, even those not yet 18 years old, were signing themselves out of school or just leaving. The teachers that were left here were in containment mode, and the parents were obviously frustrated and angry about the whole situation. The inmates had been allowed to take over the asylum. So how did we get to that situation? Well, that's a bit of a tough story to piece together, but as near as I can figure, the timeline went something like this. And again, here's where I'm trying to be as objective as possible, because I don't want to speculate on other things that happened. Apparently some of the students had asked Ms. Fitzloff if they would get in trouble if they had staged a walkout in support of their teachers, and they were told yes, that would be a problem and would be treated as an unexcused absence. So they then changed their request to, could we have a sit-in? And she agreed, and they were told they'd be granted some time Friday morning to have their protest, after which things would return to normal. After an abbreviated homeroom period, the students were allowed to leave their classrooms to attend the sit-in. And at about 12:30, the organizers of the protest called their schoolmates into the gym and assured them that their point had been made and that their voices had been heard, and that at 1:06 p.m., the start of 6th hour, that would be the time to return to class. Now, my concern is simple. Why weren't they in class all morning? A group of children, and make no mistake, even high school kids are still children, was allowed to disrupt the learning environment in our district's flagship school for almost 5 hours. The vast majority of those kids couldn't have given you a lucid 50-word synopsis of what they were protesting, but they were allowed and sanctioned even to bring the school schedule to a screeching halt. And to whom were they protesting? Their fellow students can't vote. We already know where the faculty stands on the issue. There was no media here covering the rally. So what exactly was the desired outcome of the protest? Right. But nobody in a position of authority and responsibility thought to ask any of those kinds of questions before giving the kids carte blanche to cut class. This actually would have been a brilliant opportunity for a responsible educator to give some direction to students in the elements of effective civil disobedience, but that opportunity wasn't seized. And that brings us to the core of the issue. The entire situation screamed out for effective and decisive leadership, yet none was to be had. I can't be upset with the kids. As I stated earlier, they're children. At this point in their lives, it is their sole purpose in life to think of new and creative ways to cut class. That's their job. It's what they do. I don't have any evidence that there's anything to be upset about, to be upset at the teachers about. I was not privy to any of the stories that Linda related. We know where their chips lie in this particular situation, and I respect their right to do what they feel is necessary in order to defend their own and their family's interests. However, there are rumors that some of the teachers were telling their students that they needed to be at the protest rather than in class. And if that were to prove true, I would take strong issue with those educators, as they may have been pushing students down a path diametrically opposed to their parents' wishes. And that brings us to the administration. An administration that has fostered adversarial relationships both with their teachers and with the district's parents. An administration that has fought tooth and nail to consolidate and retain its power, even in the face of nothing more threatening than well-meaning parents. An administration that capriciously applies discipline. An administration that is so ineffective that some of its teachers don't even bother to enforce discipline in their classrooms, allowing handfuls of unruly students to disrupt the learning of others. An administration that was in a position to put some of the control that it so jealously hoards to good use by doing what was right by its students, telling them that their plan, however well-intentioned, was ill-conceived and would not be sanctioned, but chose not to. In case there's any ambiguity at this point about my stance on this, let me be very clear. There is no conceivable reason that this activity should have occurred on school property during school hours.
Right.
To be fair, we can't stop at the administration, though. We as parents share no small portion of the blame for the greater situation. We've raised a generation of kids that is more disrespectful, rude, vulgar, and entitled than any generation past. We allow them to call adults by their first names and to believe that they are our peers. We refuse to allow anyone else to discipline them, but we won't do it ourselves either. We defend our children even when their position is indefensible. And when I say we, I don't use that as a euphemism for everybody but me. I mean to include myself. I'm disappointed in the job that I've done as a father, but I'm trying to do better, and that's what I'm asking you to do. Try to do better. My kids deserve better. All of our kids deserve better. The heartbreaking part of this for me is that I've always been proud of the fact that I'm a product of the public school system in general, and RCHS specifically. I was well prepared academically for my undergraduate college experience, and I've even managed to parlay my hill country education into a master's degree along the way. But that was the old days, before unfunded mandates and ill-conceived programs like No Child Left Behind forced school districts to shift their leadership from professional educators with a single-minded devotion to the well-being and success of their students to accountants with a single-minded devotion to their budgets. So what next? Unfortunately, Friday's events have been a watershed event for me and my attitude about our school district. When she gets her diploma in June, our oldest daughter, Chloe, will be the fourth member of my family across 3 generations to graduate from Richland Center High School. Unfortunately, she will also be the last. Our son, Ethan, currently an 8th grader at St. Mary's, will be attending one of 3 nearby schools under open enrollment or potentially a private school in La Crosse, because I refuse to knowingly send my child into an environment where the best that he can hope for is to be no worse of a young man in 4 years than he will be the day he walks in the door.